I'm going to call the meeting to order. A disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. Can we have a look at the minutes, adoption of the minutes? So do we have a motion to adopt the minutes? Okay, Bonnie. And any discussion on changes? And we have seconder first, anyways. We have seconder. Okay, that either Jeff or Judy. All right, any discussion on the minutes? As changes and mistakes or errors? Everybody read it? I hope. Okay, seeing none. That's all in favor? Okay. All right. Okay, so Dan, you're there, aren't you, Dan? That's are you
Yes.
on the phone? Okay.
I am here on the phone. Yeah. Okay. So just going through the notes from last meeting, nothing really has changed. We still just have the one scheduled curb cut on Lakeside Drive. We still have to meet out there on site, I guess, before the work begins.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Can I interrupt for a second? I was going to ask you on that. So we were going to contact each other before. We never did. I wondered, is it on hold or like, are we?
Well, why don't you propose a date and I'll see if it works, and then we'll, because I don't know when they're planning on doing it. I know it's scheduled for this month, but I never know exactly what order they're doing these things in.
It's better, I think, if you propose a date and you send it to me, and I'll tell you which one's left.
Okay. All right. Well, what I'll do is, I'll propose a date probably maybe later this week or early next, and then we can get out there and have a look.
Okay, great.
Okay. Skipping down to Redford Crescent, the final restoration is ongoing right now for that subdivision work from last year, or the construction.
Sorry to interrupt, but before I forget to move on at the end, I have someone that lives on Redford Crescent, and I know we reviewed the plans for the path to the park. And she says,
okay,
notice any path to the park being put in. Is that to be still, or because she said it doesn't look like they're doing it?
Okay. I don't know. I can double check after the meeting with my inspector. I know they're still working on site, so I know I've been getting a couple calls from some residents regarding that too. So it is an ongoing thing. It's going to be going on for a little bit. So
I still want to make sure.
So I will.
Just want to make sure it doesn't get forgotten, because that was important.
No. All site done as per plan. Okay. Yeah. The Alone Ave, again, there's an ongoing restoration that's happening with that to clean that up. I've taken off the footbridge because that has now been completed. The Huron Street reconstruction project, no change has happened there. It's still deferred until next year. Queen Street, again, will be tendering later this summer, and with a starting up in the winter time. Nope, and there's no change on the TJ Dolan pathways. And there is a new note here that Argyle and Mackenzie Street was scheduled to go to tender and construction this year, and now has been deferred until next season. So, and one last note is that both the new sidewalk on West Gore and the one on Mornington Street, they will be tendered as one project and be done by one contractor, and they will be done this year. So that will happen.
Mornington Street? Oh,
Mornington Street is the other one from McCarthy to Graff. We now have the land and we've made a deal with the owner, so we're clear sailing now.
Diane?
So.
Can't hear you, Dan.
Is there a
You
question?
can hear me now?
We have
Dan.
Dan.
Hi, Dan. One thing, you and I were going to do a little walk through. Remember, along the north side of the river for those footbridges?
Yeah.
And, okay, can you sort of figure out a day that is nice and would work for you?
Sure.
And let me know. And the
Okay.
second thing is, why are Mackenzie and Argyle, they're horrible, and they're awful streets for wheelchairs. And
I know. But I guess there was some the prices came in much higher than we had expected, so we had to defer until next season so that we have the proper funds to do the job.
oh,
Yeah.
too bad.
So, yeah, no, but they are slated for next year, so hopefully we can get to them this time next year. So.
Thanks, Dan.
Bonnie, you were next.
And the comment about Memorial Gardens, I have talked to Nancy Rolston, my manager of engineering, and we are suggesting that needs to be driven by community services as a project. So I'm thinking that the committee should reach out to David St. Louis and then have him put that as a priority on his upcoming list of things for capital budget.
Bonnie, you're working with Roger and myself a little bit on that project. Do you remember whatever happened? Why didn't it go to community services? Do you remember? Because I know that was a big project for Roger. Yeah, a long time ago. No, you don't remember? Okay.
I'm sorry, my computer cut out. Okay, I'm back on now. So what was that about?
Dan mentioning about the Memorial Gardens, and that was something that probably since
I don't know what happened. It's just on the list for somebody to look at.
Yeah, and I think that the scope of the job, it would be a project that would be driven from community services. Engineering may or may not be involved, depending on the complexities of it. But we're suggesting that maybe David St. Louis should be consulted on that and have him address that in his budget.
So Casey, can you look into where that motion went to? How come it didn't go to community services?
Yeah.
About Memorial Gardens? It would be like over a year ago.
Oh, it was more than a year ago. It was when
I can look back in the minutes and see.
Well, we brought it up a couple of times, but
Yep,
and I've brought it up at a different meeting, but I can't remember which meeting it was.
It was a while ago. It was when I first came on the committee. Roger was talking about it.
Well, I know I went out and looked at it because I always thought there was one way in, and then I discovered that all three ways were stairs. And then they were going to talk to the Legion, I think was my last understanding, and then come back with a plan, I thought. But
yeah, it was in motion. I don't know why it died. So
Dan, are you saying it won't be in your department at all?
We may have some. They may consult us as they have in the past on certain things, but this would not be an engineering project. No.
Oh, we need to get
because of it's on community services land, I guess.
okay.
And I don't remember this coming out of the parks court, so we need to
Yeah.
find that motion and get it sent off to the parks court.
Yeah, I just didn't want to lose sight of that one.
So,
Yeah, that's, because we could have tables down there, and people could be, and I know Pazzles was even looking for extra space, but I don't think people would allow them to go in there. But I don't know. Who knows how long this will go on, if people would change their minds or not. But.
so do we just need to contact David and then We don't need to wait for that, do we, to find out? Because I don't think we have to invite him yet. But unless we have other items on the agenda for him.
Mm-hmm.
So what do people think?
Well, we still have the pathway, over by, you know, that bridge coming off of, what is that, Delamere? You know, coming across because we wanted to fix it behind the parking spot
Right.
there. There's
Yeah.
still that. And Martin Street, I think, is on the list to be done.
And we can talk about Rotary too.
Sidewalk. Well, the Rotary's on the capital budget.
So do we need to make a motion to invite David St. Louis to come to our committee meeting?
Well, why don't we get Casey to send the motion to him and then find out his response. I mean, that's just an idea.
Jody? By the way, Jody's here and should invite our guest, shouldn't I? Sorry, David. I don't want to pronounce your last name. Sorry. What's your last name?
Dalglish.
Your voice changed.
He's an alto now.
Yeah, I can't hear you, David.
It's on mute.
Uh-oh. Well, maybe you can say.
Okay, there we are.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. No, it's just like it's spelled, Daglish.
Okay. I didn't want to butcher it. I have a last name people butcher all the time. So welcome both of you and thank you for coming. So
that is all the notes that I had. Is there anything else
Jody had
the
a
committee would
comment.
want to talk about?
Jody?
I was going to mention in regards to the Memorial Gardens, I'm on the Community Services Subcommittee, and we are scheduled to be meeting next week. So I could bring it up at subcommittee at the same time if Casey wants to send the motion or send it to Mr. St. Louis. And then I can make sure I bring it up at the subcommittee so that it gets the ball rolling that way. That might be faster.
That's great. That's perfect.
Jody, do you remember it ever coming up at community services?
Not in the last 2 years.
No, I don't either.
Yeah, it was a while ago. It was like quite a while ago.
Okay,
So-
well, it's a good time to probably bring it back. So we can do that.
All right. So we need a motion or do we just go through Casey?
You want me to look for the previous motion and forward it, or do you want to make a new motion today?
I think we had the previous motion. So if you want to look to the
Yep,
previous,
I'll look back. Yeah,
and then if we don't need to re-motion to invite him. Jody's going to talk to him anyways on the subcommittee. That should be good, right?
okay.
And it wouldn't hurt to also resend the motion about the pathway along to the bridge, because that way he's got the two things that are current.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we've talked about the pathway before.
But the pathway has been done, I think. I
There's
went
something
down it.
in that parking lot?
Oh, to the parking lot? Oh, yeah, right. No, I thought you were talking about the other one.
Yeah, no.
Okay, yeah, that's not complete, so that's definitely a problem. Actually, I brought that up when we were talking about the lakeside parking space, and no one wanted to discuss it with me. So if that may be because it was the committee or community. Lori.
Hi, I don't know if this is the place to bring this up, but last year I had mentioned about the washrooms at Upper Queens, an automatic door opener. Someone had mentioned that to me, that it's not accessible because there's no button to push to have the doors open and close. So I don't know if that's another piece that would be part of capital budget or not, but I think that would be something else that might be on the list.
Now, I think that has been brought up. Jody, you're thinking,
Yeah.
you remember?
Dan?
I don't remember it, but it's also on the community services list. So if we're compiling a list of things that from this committee for them to have a look at, that should definitely be on the list.
So that's not Dan's category.
No, that wouldn't be me.
Okay, so let's deal with Dan. And anything else for Dan? All right.
No.
All right.
Okay.
Dan, appreciate it.
All right. Well, as always, I can be caught by email or just give me a call at extension 227.
All right. Jody has one more thing here.
just before Dan leaves, is he going to stay for, so we're here from ATAC to discuss some priorities as far as sidewalks and so on goes. Can you stay for that piece?
Is that next?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. If you want me to, sure.
Okay. And Dan, I just want to remind you to call me, okay? So regarding the other
Yep.
issue.
No, I will. I'll give you a call.
And I wouldn't mind going through the walkthrough with Diane too.
Yeah, well, and I was actually thinking it might be a good idea to have Quinn Malott there as well.
Definitely.
From community services, as is his that's in his wheelhouse.
All right, sounds great.
And you'll be doing that once the lockdown has stopped, right? When it's safe to do it.
Yeah. I don't know if it matters outside, but.
Yes, it does. Especially it's not.
Oh,
Parks are
I'll
in
be
lockdown.
wearing my mask.
Yeah, I got
Parks
one.
are in lockdown.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, thank you. So let's go on. We have delegates. It's Councillor Jody Burbach, David Danglish. Very good. Active Transportation Advisory Committee, and going to discuss this project. So who's taking lead? You guys, I don't know either.
Okay.
Do you want to go through the list?
Sure. What list I have, and then if I've missed something, Jody, you can add on. One of my contacts is a member of Rotary, and she's working through COVID by walking the sidewalks of Stratford, and she's probably approaching completion of her 5th circuit. But on her 4th, we asked her to keep an eye open for nasty gaps in the sidewalk network, particularly where there was no alternate connection. So she had a few areas. There was Pine, Cedar, and Walnut Street didn't seem to have any sidewalks at all. And there were a couple of sections where the roadway was busy and not a good alternative. There's a bend that takes you from East Gore to Borden, and there's a bunch of apartments and subsidized housing there. So she thought that would be an area that should be focused a little more on. And the other part that we were looking at, particularly along with the Huron Street work, would be to focus on the last bit of Foreman Avenue on both sides of Huron. Those were the ones that we had that were sort of really were impacting apparent pedestrian traffic. There were a couple of other ones that were just a little short pieces that would clean things up. For example, connecting Water Street to Delamere. There's just about 100 feet of missing sidewalk. So, and in the wintertime, it's particularly nasty because you have to struggle out onto the street, and it's not, unfortunately, well plowed along there with the curbs. Those were the ones.
Where Water in Delamere is?
That's over by the north side of the river, behind the River Gardens.
Yeah, it's Martin. It's Martin Street.
Oh, he means
Street?
Martin
Okay.
Street. Yeah, we've had that on our list for a couple of years, several years.
We agree.
Yeah, so yeah, the idea was we were going to bring you our list to see, obviously, if there's things that are on both of our lists. It's pretty important.
Yeah.
I do have a few more. We had talked quite a bit about Foreman, because right at that intersection where the Tim Hortons is, and there's just the Shell station, there's so much traffic there. There is a sidewalk on the one side, but not on the other. And also Foreman down towards the high school, there are missing sections of sidewalk along there as well. So if someone was going along on the north side, they'd have to, switch over to the south and then back to the north. So there's definitely patches along there that we were thinking that needed to be done. The other one was Worsley Street, So that's that little street that's behind, it's now called Stratford Intermediate, which used to be Central School. So the parking lot goes off of Worsley. And it also is just sections of sidewalk. So there's a missing section when you come off of Birmingham, I think, yeah. And around that, there's a well-traveled piece of grass that people walk on because it's awkward because of the traffic to just cross over to the other side. Where was the other one? Yeah, Devon. Did we mention Devon Street? It says one sidewalk, and that's a collector street with quite a bit of traffic on it.
And it's terrible sidewalk.
Yeah. Yeah, the sidewalk is also old and bumpy.
Okay.
And the other one was Willow Street. We flagged as being another one that has no sidewalks.
In places, yeah.
Bonnie, did you want to comment?
Actually, I just wanted to ask Jody a question. At the ATAC meetings, you go by the bike and pedestrian plan. Does the city, like, I know the city has a list of all the sidewalks that are needed that come off of that plan. Have they actually struck up the plan and prioritized the streets themselves? And then maybe you've asked to change the order of it? I'm just not
Yeah,
sure.
unfortunately, the bike and pedestrian master plan is quite a patchwork. So it sort of jumps all over the place. And then it hasn't really been followed in any particular order. It's kind of wherever we're doing work, we'll kind of see if there's something on there that we can do. So this year, engineering department is going to be redoing a master transportation plan. So that's all roads. And as a part of that, they're going to incorporate the pedestrian and cycling as well. So which kind of makes sense, as well as bus routes and so on. Like all of those things need to be integrated together. They really shouldn't have separate plans. So hopefully, if we give them a list of our priorities, especially if we can combine, what pedestrians need, and every pedestrian route needs to be accessible as well. That if we can combine our list together, that they would be made priority in that new plan. So we were flagging things that really it seemed like heavy pedestrian traffic, but there was no accommodation for people. In other words, they're using the road or they're cutting across property, and going over curbs and so on that they probably shouldn't. So that was sort of we had done, I think 2 years ago, we got together and made a list as well. So this is sort of a continuation to see if there's any new spots on your list, or things that from our list that you think are priority. Like what do you think are the most important things from an accessibility?
I get a lot of comments about, how we did Erie Street on the east side. And then I get a lot of comments about when we're going to continue the sidewalk from Erie out to like Packham Road on the east side, right? Now, that new gas station convenience store, they'll be putting a sidewalk along their section. So then we just need to go across Tim Hortons, McDonald's, Boston Pizza down to, even if we get down to as far as Harvey's, because that's, that to me is the most traveled area for people that don't have cars or trying to get the fast food places, even if we can look at that. And then of course, the next one is a continuation of doing Lorne Ave from Erie to Downey, at least on one side, because I've heard many comments, but you can see the well-worn path where people are walking along the edge there to get over to the fast food places maybe, or even over to the doctor's office or the MP's office is there, or the MPP's office is there, and the Chamber of Commerce and EI, that's a bad road. Now I know that eventually it's supposed to go to 5 lanes, but that's like 2031, and then not even a guarantee that 5 years for each section. Who knows when they're coming to Stratford? So those are ones to really, to me, that help with the connecting link you know, we've got Erie from Wright Boulevard, Lauren from Wright Boulevard to Erie. Now we need to fill those holes in too, you know. And I believe on Erie Street, the new, like the Kia dealer and the different ones that came in new, the money for the sidewalk was put into the reserve fund. So that when we do that, and I think once that, maybe I'll be next week to get it in the budget to finish the east side of Erie Street out when that sidewalk's gonna go in, when they put the gas on. I'm not sure when they're starting that, but I think they've got final approval now, so. But are those on our list, Jody?
We didn't have those on our list. I actually have a question. As far as accessibility goes, if we're thinking about, like, say, Erie or Lauren and those areas, does it make more sense, or do you find there's an accessibility difference between putting in a sidewalk and putting in a multi-use path? I mean, what's the preference?
People in wheelchairs prefer the multi-use path because it's cement. It's asphalt, there's no bumps. But the sidewalk, there's those bumps. And that's what I hear from people. And Peter, you probably would agree.
Yeah, there is a new design for sidewalks that is much less. The cracks don't make that big of a deal. I don't like taking sidewalks. I'd rather take a road than sidewalks. So multi-use path is great. It's much better as long as it's maintained. Because sometimes they put asphalt down, and the asphalt will heave during the winter time, and that actually becomes more dangerous. But often I take roads rather than sidewalks, and that's why sometimes I don't know what's wrong with sidewalks. I don't like Devon Street. So yes, definitely multi-use path. Diane?
I totally agree. And I live on Blake Street, and the sidewalk from Dufferin down to Bridges seems ancient. So, and Blake Street is extremely narrow, but it's a two-way street and people park on both sides. So, to get down, I'm weaving in and out of parked cars, but at least the road is smooth. So yes, the multi-use paths are very good in certain areas. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also feel that they like to shave heaved sidewalks from tree roots. It really doesn't do the job. And I know we can't go around spending a whole bunch of money, but for instance, on Graff Avenue, a lot is shaved, and you go at a speed of walking speed and you don't see it because it looks like it's shaved. You get quite a surprise when you do a flying leap to the next piece of sidewalk. It's pretty scary. Also gives headaches. So multi-use are so much better. I get headaches. That's why I don't take it. Now, people probably don't understand it, and they see a sidewalk and wonder why a person in a wheelchair is driving on the road. The bumping gives you headaches. It actually is like a concussion-like feeling. And I don't know if that's a result of my wheelchair rugby, but that's actually what I have problems with. So I avoid poorly done sidewalks. Now, having said that, Dan, see you. Having said that, a lot of us haven't been able to go out. Now, Bonnie gets a lot of the input from her followers on, right, Bonnie? Facebook, and she gets a lot of input on that. As far as a lot of people on the committee, I don't think many of us have taken the sidewalks lately, so we don't have a lot to offer. So this person that's walking around, that's incredibly good help. I was going to mention too about Durrell Street to the medical center. I haven't gone there in a while, but it hasn't been completed. That is incredibly important to get done. That should be priority. It's a medical center. So for example, I live North Romeo, just off on Abraham. If I was to go to my doctor's appointment, which is on Durrell, I would have to either take my vehicle or take my wheelchair. Two choices: take my van, to go into the medical center, I can't get through the gates because my hands aren't good enough to operate the gate system. They have a system which calls a call center out in another city like Toronto, and they don't understand my issues and they argue with you. And then when I finally get through, I'm trapped in that parking unit. So I prefer to take my wheelchair. So I take my wheelchair. Oh, I can't get there. I have to cross, weave on Duro, which I don't do because that'd be suicide. So since a medical center, it is extremely important that people with disabilities can get to the medical center without taking a vehicle. I'm fortunate enough to have the ability to drive, but many, many, many don't. And I wouldn't be surprised if some miss their medical appointments simply for the hassle of getting there.
Yeah, I do know one thing about Duro. We had suggested a multi-use path along there because also for cyclists too, it's much better than having a bike lane on a road where you have these 18-wheeler trucks. So I think a multi-use path in many of these places. I also had a question about bike lanes. So if we prioritize bike lanes, is that something that a person in a wheelchair would use more than they would use a sidewalk?
Anybody got an opinion? I have one as usual, but I'll let everybody go first.
I do, because I have used the bike lanes and I've been hollered at by cyclists. So that's my opinion of using a wheelchair in a bike lane.
That's exactly what I was going to say. People on bikes think that we're not supposed to be on their bike path. Now, having said that, I think there could be a way to allow both, and signage, which is really important to make the bikers aware. Hey, they don't like, bikers when you're driving, they think they own the road. Now, I'm not against bikers because I don't bike. I look like I am. However, when you're driving and they're biking right in front of your car, slowing you down is dangerous. Well, the same thing is with a bike trail for a wheelchair. I think respect and signage is always all the way along. It can't be like one sign for the whole path. Needs to remind people that you got to be polite. Wheelchairs are coming here and used for everybody. And maybe even I can see you, Bonnie, maybe even a right side for certain people, like some directional. So what to do when a bike comes, that person can move to the right or to the left or whichever way, right? Needs to be a line, maybe, I don't know, something to make it safer for wheelchairs. Bonnie?
That just, Diane just reminded me of, I don't know whether it was Dan's question or Jody's question, but my understanding was, and I actually thought it was getting done last year, but is the sidewalk on Duro Street on the south side from that train track, by Pinnacle around to the shopping mall, is that on the list for this year? Like, I know it was in the budget last year, so.
No, I don't know that that's on any list this year.
I could tell you, I heard, because I've been investigating this a little while ago, that it's up. Peter Hyde wanted it to be made sure that he can finish the buildings on the old Fram parking lot before they start the sidewalk. That was going to be my question to Jody, was that you're looking confused, Bonnie?
Yeah, I'm talking about on the south side from where the train tracks up, where Fram where Jane used to be, about a Santa Products around to the shopping mall. You're talking about from Burrett Street to the ambulance thing. The reason that didn't get done is Pete Hyde owns that property, and I'm not sure whether he wasn't willing to give the space to the city, because they were looking into that, and that was, 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know where that's at.
And that's
so there's sort of two things going on there, and that just reminded me of the other one. There's the one on the north side and the one on the south side.
So on the south side, are you talking about is there a multi-plat path?
It's supposed to be.
No, there's a sidewalk that just stops at the Pinnacle Warehouse and doesn't continue on eastward.
So was there a plan to put a multi-use path?
Yeah,
Not
like, I don't know where
not
that's at.
Oh.
I have no idea.
Can you check that, Dan? Because that was supposed to get done, I thought, last year. So I just.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Okay, thanks.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm jotting down all the areas, but if maybe after the meeting, if Casey could just, send me that list, that'd be great. I can just follow up that way.
And so you
I'll
added
record them all in the minutes, Dan.
What?
One at a time. Put your hand up. Sorry, Casey.
Yep, I'll do the list up in the minutes, so you'll have them all, Dan.
Awesome, thank you.
Bonnie?
So you're adding to the list about Pete Hydes again, approaching him again and seeing if we can get that sidewalk done?
Yeah, because his site didn't go through site plan, so we weren't able to get the land,
Right.
and therefore we weren't able to get the sidewalk either.
So, and because I looked into that, I want to follow up what I was saying before. Peter said that it was to finish that building so the big vehicles can go over there and wouldn't have to go over a sidewalk. However, what's the plan for a building? Like I thought it was pretty well done.
That site is complete.
So how does he charge? Okay, I'm blown away here. If the city is in charge of putting sidewalks in, who puts the sidewalk in? Peter Hyde?
Well, if it's his corner property, it's the one on Burritt and Duro that we're speaking of, where his office is. That site did not go through site plan, therefore we couldn't get the land and we couldn't ask that sidewalk be put in.
So what's the next step? Because we need a sidewalk there. It just really is not a good. What about right from Romeo? Is this to the medical building?
Yeah, everything is done from his property over to Romeo and Duro. That's a continuous path now. There's just that space between in front of his office building that is not complete.
So there's no way you could actually wheel from Romeo to the mall going down Duro.
No.
Well, boy, can we write a letter to him or make a motion to write a letter to him in order that he finds that he's blocking us and put it unpolite. I mean, really, it is a pain. And people that want to go to the mall should not be taking dangerous courses down Duro Street in heavy traffic. That's a danger, and he's causing the blockage. So, Bonnie, is that in agreement with you're talking about?
Well, it's not really, because in order for you to go down Duro Street to get to the mall, that's the south side. The north side
it is
important to get to the medical building. And
so
like, I know this has been brought up several times. I even brought it up in council in a new business several times. And at first they were looking into it, and then they found out because he only did renovations, because I remember asking distinctly when they came with their business plan, if there will be a sidewalk around the whole block, and they said yes. But then I found out later they went to Oxford Street because they only needed a sidewalk on one side. So that was a disappointment. And then I found out after that they weren't doing it in front of Hyde's Construction because he didn't have to go through site plan because it was considered a renovation of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, I don't know how to go about, like, can we not just send a letter to Hyde Construction requesting the land like we just did on Morrington Street, saying that the city needs it to put the sidewalk in? And I mean, unfortunately, we ended up paying for it. I mean, maybe we could ask them if he'd be willing to pay half. I don't know, but
he's got money. I don't want to hear the poor cry from Peter Hyde. I mean, that's the last thing I want to do. We got it. I agree, Bonnie. Jody?
My thoughts are that because at ATAC, we were discussing a multi-use path, would it make sense to concentrate our efforts on keeping, let's say, do a sidewalk the entire way down as far as possible towards the mall on the north side, where the medical center side, and then concentrate on putting a multi-use path the entire way on the south side, so that pedestrian, like there's more than one option.
Right.
And then we've got cyclists, we've got pedestrians and people with accessibility needs. You can choose one or the other. I think it would be smart of us not to ask Peter Hyde to do a little piece of sidewalk if we actually want to get rid of the sidewalks on that side and just do a multi-use path the whole way. That seems like a good plan. What do you think?
Bonnie?
Well, I just want to say, my understanding is we already have it in the budget to do the south side. And I thought engineering had already been done because we talked about the trees and stuff there. That at least it got that part done. And I mean, unfortunately, right now, how it is, there already is a sidewalk from Romeo to the ambulance. All we need to do is get it from the ambulance to Burt, which is just in front of Hyde's construction office. And, you know, there is ways around that in a longer path to get around, to come up that way. You'd have to go down to Romeo to come back.
You know, I would agree with Jody with going and
there's no plan to do it along. There's no plan to do it on the east side. And that's going to take a lot longer. At least if we get that south side done, it's done at least.
How about this? And I'm putting it all together. I believe a multi-use path on the south side is a great idea. It's necessary. It's needed. We're not going to fight Peter Hyde to the death, but however, he's got buildings there. It's supposed to be for seniors. I would question where they are, but because they're not for accessible or wheelchairs. I've called and asked. I don't know why, but the north also needs to be done. And I think a letter to him is also necessary because he's got to know the needs. And this blockage of being able to access even those apartment buildings from the north side of Duro would help him because people in those buildings, a quicker route to the medical center is from his buildings to go on the north side of Duro to go to the medical buildings. I don't know why he's stopping this. So I think if we have a well-written letter to ask him in a polite way to help us to get people from his buildings to the medical center with a quicker route letter. Yes, Bonnie. Bonnie?
I'm just trying to get unmuted here. The only problem is his buildings on the south side, all across his new apartment buildings, there's no sidewalk on that side because that's considered a local street, so he didn't have to put a sidewalk in. So we can just mention people trying to get to the medical building need a sidewalk.
Lori, did you have something? Or you just, I didn't see, I saw something move. Okay, so what's the plan, gang? This is a big issue, I think. Jody, yes?
I was just wondering if maybe Dan could comment on, like, do you know of any plans? Have you heard about the multi-use trail? Because at ATAC,
no.
We were talking to a different engineer, so
I'm not privy to any of that information. That's why I'm taking notes, and I'll follow up after this meeting.
Okay, because I think Michelle was starting to look into that, and unfortunately, she doesn't work for us anymore. So
no.
So there may be something somewhere that would have been.
I'll touch base with Nancy or Taylor and see where that stands.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, and Dan.
Okay, thank you.
No, Lori first. Lori?
I was just wondering, Jody, when you said there's going to be a master plan done, when is that supposed to come out? Because maybe we look at the master plan and make the plans based on that.
That's happening this summer. So hopefully, like in this budget year, hopefully it will be done and presented to us. And the other interesting thing to note is that I don't know if you've heard about Vision Zero. So it's talking about safety, 0 deaths on the road. And it is a lot about road traffic, but it also has to do with pedestrians and cyclists and everybody who might share a road or a sidewalk. So that's the lens that it's been said that we're going to do this report, and it's going to have the lens of Vision Zero. In other words, an increased safety lens. So the focus isn't always on getting to that point A to point B in the quickest way possible. It's actually going to be on what is the safest way possible. And it's going to include pedestrians and cyclists. So I have high hopes that it's going to be, and you're right, like the Giro Street project should be part of that plan. And done properly by engineering.
Diane?
Thank you. I have had to go to that medical building, and it is not nice riding on Duro. It is very unsafe, and you get honked at, transport trucks. It's not safe. So I understand you want the entire plan, but it's kind of expedient that a sidewalk for that area or a pathway, multi-use to the medical center be undertaken. It's a huge medical center now.
But you actually take the road?
Yeah, I have to take the road.
That's horrifying. Isn't it? The sidewalk is done now, though, right to the medical center. So the multi-use path wouldn't apply there.
Okay.
So you can get there. Sidewalk.
Yeah, you'd have to come down Romeo and go the other way.
Yeah. Okay, so
do that way.
One question for Jody, and probably going to move on. When you do this big plan, and it has to be for the summer, first of all, do you have anybody that can look it over that has a disability that maybe can double check? Because we can offer suggestions, but our limited ability to get around the city is limited. Maybe when we see a plan that we might say, oh yeah, but is there any way that, I don't want to slow down the process though.
I'm not sure if I can 100% answer. I do know that I think we're hiring a consultant to help with that. And the other thing is engineering does work on the AOTA principles. So everything would be up to the code for AOTA. But yeah, at some point it would be good if there was a draft copy that, for ATAC as well, to have a look at it beforehand, and for your committee to sort of have a look over and say, maybe there's some things that were missed. So yeah, I'm hoping that definitely should be part of the process. So I can ask about that and see what the timeline is, so that we make sure, as it's being prepared, before perhaps it comes to council, just for us to review a draft and kind of give some feedback.
And if we could just set up some sort of timeline so we don't stall them, but also gives us the ability, because usually on the press, most of us at the last minute, so timeline, we can look at it and maybe have a quick meeting on it. It's not regular meeting, but a separate one. Great. Judy.
Oh, yeah. David, you were talking about you have somebody who tells you about, where to pay attention to because she's a walker. I have a friend who does the same thing daily. She must walk 20 to 30 miles a day. And her major complaints are street lights, crossing signal lights that don't give people enough time to cross, specifically going in and out of the city at No Frills, for example, crossing the road there, and she has to break into a run, and she's a very fast walker. So that might be paid attention to. And it's wonderful that these people that walk the streets help us out by pointing out.
Dan, is there set guidelines on the amount of time? I think this came
Yes,
up before.
yeah, and we've discussed this before with Ontario and CH Meyer as well. So what I'll do is I'll talk to our traffic technician and see if he can look at the timing at No Frills.
Yeah, there, and I've noticed the one if I'm crossing between Zares and No Frills. No, not No Frills. The Bulk Barn Place. There's a crossways there, and it's you really have to shuffle.
Yeah, that's true. That's and I'm sure they're trying to save time on the amount on Ontario Street, but it is quick, even in a power chair.
Yeah.
So, Bonnie?
I think the last time we looked at this, that they had to put all the lights at whatever the traffic conditions is at max. I think we found out that 31 seconds at Ontario and Steve Meyer. And I know just recently they fixed the lights at Zares. I think it had something to do with the left turn, but maybe the time got mixed up or something. I don't know. And I wanted to ask you, Dan, like I know that they were slowly replacing some of the street light, like the stoplights at certain corners because the parts have wore out and are like so old, so they were replacing them. Do you know if that project has been finished or are they still working on that? You know?
From my understanding, it's still an ongoing thing. But again, I will touch base with traffic.
It'd be nice to know which ones they've got done because I know I know I complained different times about the one at Erie and Lorne, and I'd see them up there working at it, and then it seemed to be better for a long time, and then the other day I noticed it was acting up again, like you come up and it doesn't have a left signal. I mean, normally it does. 99% of the time it does, but sometimes it doesn't. Then I don't know what causes that.
Okay. So in order to wrap this up, everybody else have any more comments on this? So Jody, what can we do for you now? How do you want us to propose anything or?
Well, I think if we have a list from Casey, so that basically combines ATAC's list with your list. And I totally agree. It seems like from the conversation that Duro is right at the top of that list priority wise. So then I think we need to present that maybe the next meeting we can, I don't remember if we did a motion from this committee or ATAC for that to proceed through to engineering or submitted to staff. I don't remember exactly how that went last time.
Last time you were here, we discussed it too, that same issue. So
yeah, so maybe we can ask if Casey can get the list, and then at the next meeting, if you want to submit it to staff as a motion to say these are our priorities for the next year, if these are the things that need to be addressed, and say that it's a cooperative list between accessibility and ATAC.
Wouldn't that be nice for Access Awareness Week?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Maybe do something for that. I don't know if it's ready for that, but maybe we could do something together on that. Be a good project. Yes, Laurie.
I don't know what people's feelings are about around the hospital. There's not a sidewalk all the way around the hospital. To me, that would be another area
I think
that maybe get added to the list.
That was on our.
That came up before.
Yeah. 2 years ago, that was our number one recommendation 2 years ago, and part of it is being done this year. So the stretch along West Gore is being done. But yeah, that's true that the stretch along St. Vincent and along Cambria should also remain on the list, I think.
I think so too.
Maybe we can add that in.
Right. All right. Bonnie?
And when we do from Redford to West Gore, the sidewalk on the west side from the townhouses before Patricia Road, all the way to West Gore is supposed to be done. So that can't get forgotten. Because in stage 1 and 2, they didn't do the sidewalk, but they said they would do it when they did stage 3.
Very good.
That's on Romeo, right? Or no, sorry, St. Vincent.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Okay.
Well, thanks a lot for David, Jody, and Dan. Appreciate it. And
All right.
look forward to you in the future.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Onward parking. I don't know if there's nothing on the agenda, so I don't think we have to deal with parking unless somebody has anything coming up urgent. No. All right. Transit. Nothing was on the agenda. So we're good that way. Site plan review. We got your submissions that were sent. They're Tyler, you want to take that? Or Sean? Sean's there too, and he's on the agenda, so you're muted, by the way. Can't hear you. Just wave. Well, you're zooming out on us here, buddy. Well, can we go to the next agenda point and we'll come back to you? Or are you going to get it? Oh, it's connecting, it says. Try it now. All right, you guys need a tech guy in there.
Tyler, try
Okay.
logging out and re-signing in.
All right, while he's doing that, Bonnie, Leslie, you're next. Is there anything on the agenda as far as the city council is concerned that can concern us and our committee that we may not be aware of? Like, I noticed there is you go ahead, and if you know of anything, I have one thing to bring up.
We'll bring it up first.
Oh, so I didn't read the article that was in the paper, but I noticed that there's an initiative for the city council to make sure that the developments are green, right? I didn't read the article. If that can be done, how can we ensure that the developers make things accessible? And again, we're looking at bylaws, we're looking at process, we're looking at red tape. If you were able, and I didn't read the article, so maybe you can fill us in on that one.
Well, they're
Because
just looking
if
at
they
it.
can,
Like, they're just recommending it, and they're gonna look at it for the 2022 budget, so it's just gone back to that. Same as ours,
so
gone back to staff to look at, and like, we just
What
got
are
a
they
new
looking at?
director, just started last week, we got a new director of infrastructure and transportation. So it might not hurt us, maybe give them a bit of time, like this is May, maybe September, we ask them to come out and we go over some of this stuff with him. Because, he just started last Monday, and it's June next month, so that's our last meeting for the summer. Maybe have him come out in September, we could go over some of these issues that we've been having and ask for his help or direction.
and who is they?
Pardon? What?
Who is they? You said
Tyler.
your mic is hard to hear.
Taylor Crinkwall just started as the new director of infrastructure and transportation. He taken over Ed. So it might be a good idea for us as the accessibility committee to have a meeting with him and, express.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Because I was wondering, you say looking at, but the government sometimes uses looking at, and it's confusing because they say they're going to look at it, but then you never hear about it again. I'm not saying you're doing that, but I'm just saying.
That's the problem. It goes on the list. And what happened was our director retired, our director of planning retired, our manager of planning retired. We had several people leave. So there's a huge list in infrastructure, in the ITS department. And they mentioned, I was on the ITS, I always watch subcommittee meetings, and they were talking about the backlog on there. Because people were bringing up different things that have been presented as far back as 2004 apparently. And, you know, some of the things are on the list, and it's just like basically prioritizing and getting them off the list and getting them done. But, you know, council keeps adding more to the list, and subcommittees keep adding more to the list. Advisory committees add to the list, right? And everybody wants to
Okay, so
that. So it would be helpful for us to tell him the things that we would like to see him done that have been, we feel, a long time on our list. Just an idea.
yeah, because well, I think it's necessary that we start getting bylaws or something to get the developers in order to make it accessible. Now we know we're waiting for this document to come out. We know we're needing to do workshops and that, but by the time we do everything and people look at things, if you're going to look at green, we got to look at accessibility too. More than just look at it, we got to take action. So whether it requires a bylaw, whether it requires somehow to educate those who are developing, which we talked about, and it's part of our plan that we're going to do in 2021 in order to at least set up our plan in order to accomplish that. But when the city looks at green, and the papers say they're looking at it, if they're able to look at green, we want them to look at accessible housing. I'm not saying
that too.
accessible housing. Pardon? You jumped
And
over here. What's that? Your microphone's really hard to understand. What'd you say?
Me?
Yeah, I did, but I couldn't hear what you said. You said something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said we brought this up several years ago, and it was added onto the list, is my understanding, to look at. But if you actually get time to read the article or go on the ITS thing, Ed explains why it might not even be possible to green because of the cost and the timeline and the payback and this. So there's issues.
Yeah, so the green.
There's issues when you're a smaller city implementing some of these things. It's my understanding. It looks like Kathy is going to talk.
So Tatiana, you want to address that point?
Yeah, through the chair, if I could just jump in quickly. So a report was presented to the Infrastructure, Transportation, and Safety Subcommittee meeting regarding the development of green standards. As noted in the report, it is available on our website. It will be going to committee and council. I recommend everyone here read it. They've referred it to the 2022 budget because at this time we don't have the staff resources to undertake this review, so it will likely require a consultant. And is noted in the report, they did say that it is unlikely the city is able to mandate this. We could potentially adopt voluntary standards like the Facilities Accessibility Design Manual once it's adopted. But again, it has the same issues with requiring builders to develop items or buildings greater than what's required in the building code. So again, I would recommend everyone read it. 2, referring back to our last meeting, there was an entire discussion about this committee choosing 1 to 2 projects that it wants to champion. So if accessible housing and adopting a bylaw is important, we would recommend that this committee create a proposal that would be submitted to council, similar to kind of what E&E done. E&E basically just submitted a resolution, and now it's been referred to staff, and they've referred it to the 2022 budget. So again, kind of going back to our previous discussions and tying it all in, yes, these items are important, but it is important that we scope projects, especially if we want to see action on them.
And so that's a good segue because we might as well put it in here. There was Judy, Diane, and Lori, I didn't get a chance to talk to you about that. But we did talk about prioritizing. And of course, if you look at your minutes, you can see that those projects are identified. And there's a list of 5 of them that were identified. And of course, since the first one is the accessibility that Bonnie and myself and others were working on as far as the recreational parks, it's almost completed. So that was one of the ones we prioritized to finish that one. And as we looked at this, the important thing is what we can finish. So that's not because these other things aren't important. And the second one, of course, was the manual. That's a priority. And we want to get that approved. And the third one was the bylaw or accessibility in developments. Housing is a huge issue. Now, what can we do as far as housing goes? So we discussed workshops during last meeting. And so what we can complete is maybe the plan and also how to implement it and how to work on educating. So the plan, implementation, and educating. I'm not using the word looking at, because to me, that's a it's Bonnie, it's got nothing to do with you. It's with another new business item that we're going to be talking about. But I want it to be concrete, to have up and ready by the end of 2021. At least so that we can present it to council, can present it to the city to say, here's a plan in order to make accessible housing in Stratford actually be voluntary by the architects to the developers and willing. Now, I know from experience, I've had resistance, acceptance from other, but if it's presented properly, we can actually get people to have willful compliance. And that's the goal. That makes sense, Tatiana? Well, you disappeared. Yeah,
There she is.
disappeared.
Through the chair, yeah.
Okay. That's good. Is that helpful? How's the committee feel about that? So we have the 3 items to be completed by 2021. We need participation. I know some of you are busy, but you know what? So am I. I'm really busy. But we need to be active and get these things so we can say, this is what we completed in 2021. Any comments?
Sounds good.
All right. So we don't need a motion for that. It was just a
Yeah.
plan, right? But Diane?
Peter, may I
Yeah.
comment?
Okay, sure, of course.
Yeah, okay.
Now's the time.
I submitted some questions to both the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and CMHC, and both have got back to me with CMHC has sent me an exhaustive list of sources regarding accessible housing in municipalities, accessibility housing bylaws, just plethora information. So even though that is not the bylaw is not on one of the doables this year, I will be continuing to research and summarize these documents through the summer.
Diane's done a really good job of researching. She sent me a copy of the, did you just send it to me or others?
No,
the
I sent
links
it to
that
you.
made. Okay,
I
maybe we
sent
can
it to
look
you.
at it first and share it. And she's done a lot of work in this area, and I really appreciate that. CMHC has a lot of resources, and it's really good for the committee to look at those things because they're excellent. So maybe I'll go over. I haven't had time to actually do in-depth looking at the websites, but she's done a great job at that. So thank you, Diane.
I have so many more to explore now.
Diane's taken housing as a project, and she's done very well.
Good for you, Diane.
Thanks, Judy.
If anybody wants to work with Diane, let her know because she's done quite a bit of on that. All right. So that would help us in our taking care of the goal that we have to make housing more accessible in Stratford. Tyler, you ready? Or are you just putting up your hand?
We're back. Can you hear me all right? All right,
excellent.
Through the chair, I apologize. I think that the computer mic has never heard me be quiet for so long, so it thought I died and just gave up. So now I'm gonna have to look into fixing that. I don't know what the deal is. So I'll let Sean speak to the report just to kind of give a brief overview.
Yeah. Through the chair, can you hear me okay? Okay, keep the nodding head.
It could be louder.
Yeah.
Is it getting closer at all? Or?
Is that okay?
Oh, there's a lot of background noise that kind of cuts out what you say.
All right, I'll move closer. How's that?
All right. It's better when you're not
Okay.
behind the shield, but
Okay. He's got his mask on, we're good. So just really brief, the reports before the committee, it includes the reports from 5 site plan reviews, as well as the accessibility evaluation of the proposed playground structures for the city of Stratford. And that's pretty much it for the quarter. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to do what I can to answer them now.
Bonnie.
Well, I never really got an answer back why we chose the playground that we chose over the other one. Did you get any answer back? They took our second, not our first choice.
Yeah, and Councilor Henderson, through the chair, I wrote Krista and then Quinn as well, and just had they just reiterated that the evaluation criteria, accessibility is weighted equally among 4 other evaluation criteria, and depending on how the other one scored, if there's a point or two difference between our first choice and our second choice, and then one of the other criteria that are equally weighted have a couple more points over the other one, then that's the one they're going to go with. It's like I said, it's weighted pretty high. So Quinn had mentioned that usually the first choice of the accessibility advisory committee is the one that they go with. Just because that's usually enough to sway the score one way or another. But in this case, I guess it didn't. He didn't go into any specifics. I asked a couple of times for specifics, but and I had hoped that there would be some, they take advantage of an opportunity to maybe come and discuss this with the committee, just to sort of go over the process in general, so that we can all have a better understanding of the entire process in terms of, okay, what categories are weighted how, and how does accessibility figure into that, and what may cause one result over another, just in general sense. But I wasn't able to get anywhere with that, unfortunately.
So my question to follow up with what Bonnie said, I didn't even realize it when I looked at this because it's quite detailed. And since I didn't have a picture, I didn't know that ours was not accepted, because I'm not going to reread the whole thing. Can you make sure that we're notified in the report? And we're going to summarize this a little more, right? A little smaller, maybe, because I saw it and I go, oh no, I don't want to reread what we already spent like a couple hours on playground equipment without seeing a picture. Bonnie, how did you become aware that it was not the right one that we chose?
Well, when I read the report from Community Services, and in the report it mentioned the name of the company, so I looked at the list that we had looked at, and actually it was confusing because the name they were using didn't actually match the name that we looked at. So I said, we must have missed getting that one. But when he sent it back, I guess they must use 2 different names or something. So we actually had looked at it, and it was on our list, and we had brought it in, I think at, I don't know, say 38 points, and the other one was 46 points, right? So I sent back and asked why they didn't pick that one. I never heard back. And I sent it off to Marion, looking into it. So I never did hear back.
So in order to improve staff relationships, because I think that's what we've been trying to do in the past year, I think it's respect to the committee that they actually inform us on the details of why not a detailed, but a description, but maybe some couple of points of why they felt one was over the other, because we put a lot of work into it. And I know everybody does. And looking at these and just getting the written report with a different name, that's kind of hard for us to even notice that they've put something that we didn't put first. Is there any way to rectify that?
So through the chair, I'll take that one. I think what we've kind of been doing with the committee is having different departments show up and be a delegation or present to the committee. I think that would be another opportunity, perhaps, knowing that this is going to be a reoccurring item moving forward. There's an opportunity to maybe invite them to come to the committee meeting and maybe give a little bit of an overview of what they do, provide a little bit more context, and establish some more communication between the committee as well as the department.
Yeah, I think we met with them before, if I'm not correct. Bonnie?
On my paper here. So we had called it Play World and it was 34 points. And they called it New World Park Solutions Incorporated. So I had thought, you know, we had looked at what, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. And so I thought it got missed. So then that's when I found out that the New World Park Solutions Incorporated is actually Play World. Now that might have been on our site plan and we just, maybe there was a short, I don't know how that happened.
See, for us to know that, I think that's important.
And that's the one that had the wheelchair ramp. So maybe that's why they thought that was the better one. I don't know.
Well, if it's based on accessibility and they're saying, well, we got the recommendation from the accessibility committee, but we're going to put a ramp in instead. There's reasons why we didn't choose the ramp one, right? So I think that needs to improve on communication. Now, it probably isn't. I think there might be another reason, obviously might be the case, but we need to know, because if we don't, if we put a lot of work into it, which nobody's done playground equipment, it is tedious, very exhausting to examine those things, to make sure that we balance it. And when we do it, to balance it, I put all that work into it, it's ignoring it. Yes, Judy.
I think out of respect, we deserve an answer and an explanation, because you're right, that was a lot of work.
I totally agree. I was going to use that word and I stayed away from it. I felt kind of disrespectful to do that.
It was.
So can we improve that relationship there, Tyler?
Through the chair, I think any relationship you can improve on. So I'm going to say yes, absolutely. I think we can reach out as well. And it's coming from the committee to have them show up and ask for that department maybe at a future meeting. Doesn't necessarily have to be the next one, but I think it'd be advantageous to definitely invite them to have a conversation and stress again the importance of the committee and any decision that is not with the recommendations of the subcommittee. Express to them that, you know, it'd be nice to have some kind of understanding as to why those decisions are made, because that might then also help you with future decisions down the road as well, right? So you'd have a better common understanding. For sure.
Bonnie?
I think it would be important. Like I know I don't know if it was last year when we actually had it, the playground equipment. No, we didn't do it last year because of COVID. They skipped that. They canceled it. So we'll be the year forward. And I actually think we had a page where it had the prices. So my concern is if it was the price was the reason why, and I'm just guessing, if it was the price was the reason why, I think it should have came back to us. And then maybe we could have made a motion to council, depending on the difference on price, say it's 30,000 or 20,000 or whatever it was. If that wasn't the reason, maybe we could find the money somewhere to go with what we felt was the better one. Not saying the one with the wheelchair is bad, but I mean, it didn't have a lot for people on wheelchair. The other one had more activities. And I'm wondering if we could just, maybe Quinn could just email Casey back or Tatiana and say, this was the reason why we went with number 2 instead of number 1. So we totally understand it. They don't necessarily have to come to a meeting, but unless we don't understand their reasoning. But I think I know one other time we changed the price on it. We went to council and I made a motion that we increased the price on the budget and we found the money and we did it.
Yeah, and they came out to talk about it too. So I don't know who, I can't remember who it was, if it was Quinn or I know it wasn't David St. Louis, I don't think. Casey, maybe you can dig in to find out who met with us before and if it's changed or not, because a lot of staff has changed. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I know Quinn's still-
the last time we had staff come out and talk about the playgrounds, it was Quinn, but that was easily
Okay.
3 years ago, probably.
Yeah, so we should do that. Judy, you got
Yeah,
your hand
well,
up there.
you know, if they should have asked, if it's just the question of why we would turn down one with a ramp, there's explanations for that.
Exactly. I mean, why would we turn down a ramp if we're an accessible committee? Well, it's because
It
of
doesn't
this.
go anywhere. It doesn't do anything, you know, something like that. But
Yeah. A kid goes up a ramp all the time. You think that's going to
yeah,
excite
there's
them on a
nothing
playground?
when you get up
Not.
there.
Yeah, so we have the background, we have the information to help them. Now, if it's based on something totally different that they can't afford, well, that's
Yeah.
understandable. But I think we need to know, and I think it's a lack of respect. So Quinn's a great guy. I mean, I talked to him. There's no problem. So I think he's very easy to talk to. So how do we go forward with that? Bonnie, you were doing that project. I don't want to put it on you, but you want to speak to Quinn maybe? And should we have a subcommittee meeting over it again to find out what's going on, or is it necessary?
Well, yeah, and I'm just, as we're sitting here and I'm thinking about it, I'm not sure if the request, like the, I can't remember if the request for proposals has actually gone out and they've accepted it, and say we find out in the meantime. I know it's already been passed the council, but I'm wondering, you know, if there's even still time to change that, if, say, it's a matter of the money and then we can find it somewhere. So, do you know, Anna, what's the next best step?
Yeah, I think, you know, maybe we're not going to put a stop to this one, but maybe for a future relationship with them, that we can be more in contact and get more of a feedback to say, hey, how come you chose one over the other? Because they might be making decisions that would maybe be totally forgetting the accessibility reasons that we made.
And I
Okay,
feel
so
bad because we just had a parks meeting. I should have just brought it up there.
yeah, so do you want to contact them and find out the details and get back to us maybe? Do you mind doing that, Bonnie? Or
No, I don't mind doing it, but I already did it and I never heard back. And I also contacted Marion and I never heard back from her either. So I'm not sure if this should be me now or.
well, maybe we should then, if they're not getting back to you, then we'll just call them to a meeting. Right? That's the best way to solve it. If they are, I know they're busy, but we are too. And I think if that's the case, they're not getting back to you, I think we'll just have invite them to a meeting. How's
Good
that?
idea.
Great idea.
I
Okay.
can resend it today if you want. And
Sure.
I can just forward it to everybody what they say.
Does that sound kosher with
Yep.
everybody? Do we need a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll
I don't know if we
second.
need one, do we?
I'll
There.
All in favor. Might as well do it, right? All
Peter,
in
I
favor?
don't know what the motion is that you're making.
I know. I didn't know if they were making that motion. I was thinking, do we need
Did
to
somebody
make
come and explain to us why they didn't, and what they're looking for?
Okay,
And
who
put-
do I need to, who is in the motion to be invited?
Quinn?
It'd be Quinn.
Okay, so you want to read that back because it was.
So the motion is to invite Quinn to discuss the subcommittee review processes
Yeah.
And the
and
feedback.
feedback opportunities.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Somebody want to officially make that motion?
I will.
Okay, Judy, seconder. It's Diane. All in favor? Yeah,
No.
Bonnie. Oh, yeah.
So then, so I don't need to send the email off then.
I was hoping that we could do it with an email and not have to go through the meeting process. But apparently, I think everybody kind of wants the meeting, right?
I'd like to see his explanation.
I would
Okay.
too.
So I guess you don't, Bonnie. We'll just do it through the committee. That way it's not on you. Okay? So all in favor? I only have two hands up. Guys, put your hands up. All right, that's 4 of them. That's 5. Okay, here we go. We passed it. All right. All right, we got to be moving here.
Oh,
Yes.
Peter, I wanted to ask about 16 Blake Street.
Okay.
Tyler, that is just 3 doors away from me, and there's a existing house on it that was bought, and they tried to flip it last fall, and I think it's being rented month to month. And it's a wider lot. It would be perfect for these 3 units, and one could be accessible. I'm just wondering what's the status of that project?
Bonnie, do you want to answer that first? Or
There's an open house on June the 21st at 6 o'clock, a public meeting. And
Where?
they did turn
Where?
on Zoom. There'll be a public meeting that'll come out.
website?
It was at council, and they had changed the site plan, and it looks like they, you know how they had the garage there before? They didn't have the garage there anymore, and it was like parking across the back, and they did have an accessible parking spot.
Yeah.
But does that mean an accessible unit?
Well, I'm trying to remember. I did ask at the meeting. I'm trying to remember. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I feel bad. I can't remember if they said they were putting in a ramp at the back or not.
I remember that because we were talking about the outside, and they said it did not look like the entrance was accessible.
No, but at the council meeting, I asked the question again because we'd already discussed it at our meeting.
However, I was going to say, the issue was clearly they weren't going to make it accessible if they had no intention by putting stairs in it, an accessible parking space. The whole concept, and again, Tatiana, this is why the manual is so important. They do a accessible spot and they think it's accessible, and then they put stairs into the accessible unit or possibly accessible unit. So there's no accessible thought in there. Diane first and Bonnie.
Are these to be rental or sold units?
Bonnie?
As far as I know, they're rental units. And at our accessible meeting, we felt they weren't doing anything. But when I brought it up at council, they were very interested. So they were still doing their site plan thing. So I think we'll hear more at the public meeting, and the public meeting will be really important for us as a committee to attend and put in our comments.
Do you want to send us sorry to cut you off. Do you want to send us that meeting by email so we all have it, so we don't have to write it down?
Okay.
Okay, that's important to go. If people can go, I'm going to try and go, or on it, whatever you use.
Why don't we wait until the official notice comes out? Then I can actually just send you the public meeting notice. And then you'll have Zoom links and you'll have everything. Okay? Because we just got it approved for the date, because they just picked the date just this week, I think it was, or early last week. So.
And you said June 21st?
Right. I think it's 7 o'clock.
She'll send you the email, and then we'll.
Okay. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. And what I'll do is I'll send you the public meeting notice about when it is. Or actually, I think Tatiana does anyway, don't you?
Well, if you send the notice to everybody, you'll get it, and we got to move on because our meeting is it's 1 o'clock already, and we got a couple more items on the agenda. So, is that okay with all that? All right, Tyler, you have anything more to say on that?
Through the chair, nothing more to say. All
right, good to hear your voice. All right, so in 10, we've already discussed the, oh no, it's actually put to June. Tatiana, is there, because they're still working on it, or put it aside and have another, yeah.
Through the chair, staff are still working on it. Unfortunately, they are extremely busy over in the building department. I'm hoping to have an update by June, and I'll keep the committee apprised.
Yeah, I'm just curious what, again, like, what are they examining? I don't really know the holdup, to be honest, because it was like 3 or 4 times.
It's my understanding they're developing a summary of the document for the committee to review as requested originally back in February. So once I have
For
that
changing.
document, then we'll relist it for consideration by the committee.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So you have the 2021 project action plan. Everybody got that? Everybody's good with that? New business, National Access Awareness Week. Tatiana, sorry to keep you so long. You probably got a meeting to go to, but take it away. Thank you for being
That is
patient.
A-okay. So I want to thank Tyler for flagging this for us. So National Accessibility Week will be the last week in May. So I believe it's May 30th to about June 5th. I was just wanting to see if there were any specific projects this committee would like to highlight. My intent would be to work with the communications lead and try and post something to social media each day, bringing awareness to the week and the projects that the committee has undertaken previously. So one of the ones I'd like to highlight is the accessible parking permit policy. As you'll recall, that was a policy adopted back in about 2017, which allows persons with accessible parking or accessible permits to park for free in any space, any parking space in the downtown core. But looking for feedback on any other initiatives you would like to highlight during that week.
Anybody? Before I speak, Diane? Dan?
The behind the tables and behind Market Square, the boardwalks, the railings that we helped get in. Those are a couple of visible things, especially that week of the year. I hope the tables are out by then.
Yeah. Tyler, did you have your hand up? You're on the edge of the screen, so.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to keep my 6 feet plus. So through the chair, I'm just surprised Judy's dog hasn't barked at me yet, but I think that maybe a cool idea or an interesting idea, if the committee would allow it, is utilizing the banner. And it wouldn't take a whole lot for a communications staff member to go around to kind of accessibility kind of project and highlight that. And people don't need to be around, but have that as a backdrop and then have the banner beside it, and then maybe do kind of like a media push with the banner included, with new parking spaces. Maybe I don't know if there's the other playground equipment, whatever it might be, and just kind of highlight different areas throughout the community and use the banner. Just a thought.
That's a good thought. I like that. And Laurie.
And I wonder if we end it with, I don't know if people saw it, I sent a letter out earlier today, but then Marion McKee responded with, instead of a letter, it's more of an infographic, which I think is really great. It's from the town of Oakville, but if we made one specific to the city of Stratford, and that might be kind of on the last date. Now, I don't know if we can get it ready that quickly, but if you post that kind of the last day, so people are aware of the committee and kind of what we do and how people could contact us. Absolutely. But I'm not sure, Tatiana, is that something we could even get done in that quick a time?
Through the chair, we can definitely try.
Yeah, because I like that idea too. I was going to mention it. I was going to pass to you, and if you didn't mention, I was going to mention it, Laurie, because I think
did everybody see it? Because I can just share my screen. I have it up right now. Is anybody who didn't see it yet?
Me.
I don't think I did either. No.
Okay, so are people okay if I just share my screen so you can see what it looks like?
Sure.
Yes.
I don't exactly know what that means, but go ahead.
We might have to do it quickly though, because.
Just a second, Lori, and oh no, you're on. You're good.
Okay. Can people see that?
Yeah. It's great.
Okay, so
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, like it talks about, did
Yeah.
you know, and it talks about, so we would make this City of Stratford with some kind of picture and have that. And then the second page has some of the things. So some of the things that we've talked about and putting in on social media that week, we could put in here as well.
Yeah.
Just a thought,
Great.
but
No, that looks good.
So
and then I think as a next step as well, kind of either emailing that out to places or even seeing if, doctors' offices, health teams, things would be able to post that. I guess my only thing would be what kind of contact information would we put on that?
okay, we have to do that quickly, right, Tatiana, to decide those things. I don't know if we can do that today. Obviously, we can't. We're at almost 10 after. Yes, Tatiana?
Through the chair, I think I can take this back. We can add some contact information that was on the banner, and then I'll likely just circulate a draft via email. And that way we can develop something for use during that week if that's agreeable to the committee.
I like it. Sounds
Sounds
good.
great.
Great. Bonnie?
I totally agree with her bringing up about the free parking. I just had a lady last week was talking on Facebook, and I typed in and said about how it was free, and she didn't even know about it. She was shocked because she was complaining about, well, they were talking about the one-way idea on Wellington Street, right? And so there's still people out there that aren't aware of it. It's a great idea to bring it up.
Right. And when here we were talking about the cooperation that we're trying to have with this new project, and I had just kind of said, well, Access Awareness Week was coming up, and she said, yeah. So I don't know if she knows exactly when it is and if there's a timeline, and I know they're doing it this summer, but can we somehow get that cooperation or the plan of the big plan that we are contributing together as a team to make Stratford more accessible in some manner as a promotional with that committee? Tatiana?
Through the chair, sorry, which committee?
Well, what Jody was here about, what are they
ATAC?
called?
ATAC, yeah.
Yeah, Active Transportation Advisory Committee. Absolutely, yes. We can work on something for the summer, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies.
That's all right. No, I didn't even know if you're here for that, so that's okay. But she was willing to do something as promotional with the committee for Access Awareness Week as well. So I don't know exactly what, but it would be nice to have that as part of the plan. So we got to get ourselves out there, and the banner will help, and all these ideas will help. Yes, Diane. Yes, you guys keep moving around on me.
Shouldn't we as a committee be visible at some event or if the banner is behind City Hall one day, should we be there? Should we advertise? Should the city advertise that we're going to be there? People could talk to us.
Lori?
I think
Lori?
any other year that would be fine, but I think with COVID, I don't think that's going to be allowed.
COVID, sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. It's all right. I mean, I agree with you 100% because in past years, the Beacon Herald show up and they're not even owned by Stratford anymore. The London Beacon Herald page is so small. I stopped getting it. None. And so they used to come out. Scott Wishart used to come out. We used to do photo ops, and Mike can do photo ops, right, Tatiana? So I guess that's okay, but it'd have to be one person. I've got one vaccine. I don't really want to do that. I'm not looking for that. I don't like photo ops. I can't stand myself here. But if somebody wants to do a one-person photo op just to show that a person from the committee, maybe one person per week somehow ends up in the picture. Is that possible? To make us a face?
Yeah. Yes.
Through the chair, I can discuss it with our corporate communications lead and see what we can come up with.
All right. Good. So everybody good with that, and we'll keep in contact? Sounds good. Anything we have to pass in order to get that done? I think we're okay, eh? We just kind of take the lead. So we'll do that pamphlet and the banner, and Casey has the rest, knows what's going on. The other couple items, quick items, is the Judy, you had a couple things? Go for it. Who's Judy? Oh no, Judy's gone. She disappeared. Okay, she told me what it was, so I'll do it for her. Regarding the, I don't know, and Tatiana, you can really answer this too. The budget came out, and the concern she had was, of course, seniors were on the budget, but it was 75 plus, and she feels like the seniors and 60 and over were neglected, as well as persons with disabilities. So we're not getting political. We don't care about what party you like or what you don't like, or what prime minister you like or don't like. That's not the point. The point was people with disabilities were left off the budget, and persons, seniors from 65 to 75 were left off with any help at all. And of course, hey, I'm almost there, and she falls into that category. It's like that's a totally neglected part, and there are people that are starving in that age group, and they have promoted that people with disabilities are in that project, which is a total lie. When it's not in there, the only thing that's in the budget is for a 3-year study, which we've been studied to death ever since I've been in a wheelchair. 40 years we've been studied. Nothing has ever come out of it, and I'm not angry, don't worry. And secondly, I feel like I'm angry because I was waiting for something, because I know people who are starving. That's why I brought this housing issue. So, and secondly, I lost my point. That there needs to be, the other thing that they had in there was for students with disabilities. So having said that, Judy proposed that maybe I know we can't get political, but is it possible that we can, as a group, write a letter and send it to the government? Because you know what? We both individually have written them, and they've totally ignored us. In other words, they're kind of ignoring the grassroots people, the people who are actually people. And we both felt burned by it. Diane, put up your hand.
I also did that. I sent an
It's an
email.
atrocity. There was nothing. It was an atrocity. There was nothing for anything, but we're spending like for everything else. But people who really need it, they say the most vulnerable, those are the most vulnerable. It isn't even, it just was so frustrating. So, Tatiana, if you are out of bounds here, could we get, I don't know, Judy brought it up. Is there a possibility she wants to write a letter to have the support of the city as well? I know it's a stretch.
Chair. So would the letter be written on behalf of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, or are you requesting council submit a letter supporting the inclusion and additional funding opportunities for persons with disabilities?
Whatever is most effective. Whatever allowed.
Tyler, I think my recommendation would be for maybe Stratford City Council to send some correspondence. We could send it to, like, Prime Minister Trudeau. We could send it to Premier Doug Ford. We could send it to the what's the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility. We could send it to AMO. Again, just highlighting the importance of including these groups, especially during budget and funding programs. Tyler, would you agree with that?
For the chair, yeah, I think that's a great idea, and I think listing all those dignitaries is a good idea. So I would suggest your MP, your MPP, AMO, obviously, and maybe even adding on there the ONAP group. And so then that way that information can get sent, and I can help facilitate that if that gets approved by council or whatnot, to send that, that group there, and then they can maybe present that to their councils as well.
Right. We both tried MPs and MPPs, and although we get the local support, they can't get anywhere with the federal. They're just not. Yeah, Diane?
I tried Christina Freeland, and I did not get a response, but she should be copied on this as well.
I've tried the minister, Carla, for disability employment, and that's part of the problem. They think all people with disabilities are supposed to be employed, but that's why we're on disability. We can't be employed. So I wrote her. Judy also wrote Krista Freeland, and she got nothing either. I got cut and paste a while ago. So Tyler, I'd be willing to help you on that. I know you'd be willing to help on that. I think we need to do something quick. I think there are people starving in Ontario. I think this is a really pathetic display of how to take care of people who are most vulnerable. I'm okay. I'm going to live. I'm not doing this for myself. I really think if Stratford puts a voice in, we would be much more effective because they're not listening to the individual. Sounds good? So do we need to make, yes, Bonnie? Bonnie?
I think it wouldn't hurt for us to have a recommendation to council to do this. That the Stratford Accessibility Committee makes a recommendation to Stratford City Council to endorse this and send it off to that list. Because I think it's important that when the government receives it, they see that accessibility committees are concerned about it. I mean, I know another group that works on this is United Way and the local and family services.
Right.
There's several groups that are trying to help people that are hungry and
Yeah.
you know, a bit of help. And you know, like we can help solve the hunger part, you know. I mean, we still have the affordable rent, part, and we still have the accessible part. And, I mean, there's a lot that go into this, but I mean, if we can take bites out of each one, you know.
Yeah. You know,
Well,
I went to her Twitter. No, I know you can't.
What do you mean?
I know, but you can make it. You say you will make the motion?
Yes, I'm making that motion.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you right.
Sorry.
Good.
Yeah.
I thought you said you
Tatiana,
can make that motion.
What's the sequence that this should happen in? Should the letter be written first and then the committee request that council endorse it and send it to the list that we discussed?
So through the chair, I think we can just have the committee adopt the resolution. We can work on the letter in between, and then we'll have to submit this through our subcommittee council and or committee and council process. So it will take a little bit of time, but that would be my recommendation.
Okay. Does everybody like that? Diane?
What's
Yes,
the
Diane?
time frame? Tatiana, what's the time frame on that?
So through the chair, ideally, you would pass the resolution today. We would start drafting the letter, and then I would present it to the Infrastructure, Transportation, and Safety Subcommittee, and I believe their meeting is May 26th.
That's not bad. Okay, so do we want to do that resolution? You want to read, Casey, what should the resolution say?
Yeah, I need to know exactly what you would like to put.
I don't, right? Bonnie, you said it pretty good.
I make a motion that the Accessibility Committee endorse the resolution and that it's copied to the list of people that we mentioned. And forward this to City Council for them to approve.
Does that cover all the
everything we need?
Through the chair, I would recommend potentially adding in some additional language that the Accessibility Advisory Committee requests Stratford City Council endorse a resolution with specifics about adding, recognizing the importance. Sorry, I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I apologize if you can hear that as well. Recognizing the importance of persons with disabilities, in particular seniors with disabilities, and the need for additional funding programs. Looking to the chair, does that reflect the concern that was raised?
I think for seniors, because the government all of a sudden said 75 plus, it needs to identify 60 plus, because they've ignored those 10 years for some reason. I don't know why they would do that. So other than that, it sounds pretty good. Yes, Bonnie.
Yeah, like it's weird. Like a senior is basically at 65. Well, I guess actually at 60 you can start collecting your CPP, right? Well, 60 is a good point. Yes.
Not 65 still. Okay, so
No, but I mean, you can start at 60 to collect it. I know several people that do that. I mean, you get less as you get older, right? Because you started earlier, but you're collecting it longer.
Okay, so you got that, Casey? Were you able to get
I can
that?
put all that together and I'll go over the wording with Tatiana and make sure we've got it all included.
Okay, so do we have to do at this meeting as pass the resolution, or we need a motion for that? So let's do the motion. So resolution dated, because we don't quite get the wording right yet, but everybody want to make a motion? Bonnie made the motion, seconder? Diane? All in favor? Any discussion? We already did. All in favor, everybody's in favor, so we're good. All right. And the second item that Judy wanted to mention, it's a very short one. It's the Netflix camp. I've actually seen part of it. I didn't watch the whole thing. She watched the whole thing. It's a 2-hour movie. It's very educational on how in the 70s a group of disabled people had a camp, and they actually made change in the guide. She recommends it. Last night, she says it's very effective and motivates us to see the challenges of people with different disabilities and how they were able to change government to address the needs. And it probably eventually led to the ADA that was passed in the United States. So that's as well. View, I've seen the beginning. I don't remember seeing the whole thing. And that's it. Anybody else have any pressing concerns? We can end this meeting. Laurie?
Yeah, sorry, it's not a pressing concern. It's just, Tatiana, you talked about that infrastructure, safety and transportation report. Sorry, I missed where we can find that, or can that be sent to us?
Through the chair, we can send it to the committee for the passive house standards, correct?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if you were just talking about a report that you said would be beneficial for us to read.
Through the chair, so that was the passive house / development of green standards. So we can send that report to the committee.
Okay, good. It's on the website too, though, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Okay. Jeff, you got your hand up? Or?
Yeah, and I'm sorry when we were talking about, when you just started to talk about accessible housing, I was having difficulty with my audio and had to duck out for a second. But on another topic, I didn't add this to the agenda. I know Bonnie was thinking about it too, based on a subcommittee discussion that we had from E&E. Can we have a parking lot item or add to the next to the agenda of the next meeting the availability of captions or accessibility for hard of hearing citizens on city meetings?
Yeah, Bonnie, you discussed that on Zoom, right? And that was yeah, Bonnie.
Yeah. Sorry, Jeff. I should have included you in the email. I sent an email to Peter, Tatiana, and Casey about what happened, what we heard, and about that, the fact that we can't have closed captions. And Tatiana already, am I saying your name right? I always have trouble with that.
Through the chair, it's Tatiana, but Tatiana, it all works.
Tatiana, okay. So you emailed me back. Do you want to just let Jeff know what you said?
So through the chair, it is correct that we currently do not have closed captioning with our Zoom meetings. However, for council, committee, and subcommittee, we live stream to Zoom, and there is closed captioning available there. The clerk's office is working on a webcasting initiative. And as part of that initiative, closed captioning would be added to all of our meetings. So we're just in the process of doing some testing. So once we switch to that system, we would have closed captioning for our meetings that are available electronically.
So the issue is, if I understand that, because of course you can have closed captioning on a standard Zoom meeting or a Zoom webinar, but it's because it's being broadcasted or recorded live is the reason why it's not available, or is the difficulty?
So through the chair, it's my understanding Zoom, we don't have closed captioning with our Zoom streaming and recording, but with the webcasting initiative, it goes through our agenda system, and through that project, there will be closed captioning on meetings.
Oh, okay. Because I thought that captioning was a standard feature of Zoom, Zoom Professional, that the host could just turn off and on.
I can only comment on the system we have, and it's currently not available. But if a member of the public required our video in closed caption, they could submit the request to the clerk's office and we would make that accommodation.
Okay.
Yeah. My understanding, it isn't available for Zoom. I've heard that conversation before, but it could have changed because that was a little while ago when Zoom started. Bonnie, do you have any one more comment on that or not?
Well, I just want to say, when we were at our meeting and I Googled it and it said Zoom had closed captioning available. Now, I don't know what that means. You must have to buy different types of programs to get that. Maybe we don't have that with the city, obviously.
That's what I'm wondering is if it's, since this is, this is a live stream, perhaps that's what the impediment is. It's like we're not in a standard meeting.
Okay. So, well, if we have any further details, we'll discuss at next meeting.
And I'll send you, Peter, I did want to hear what you were about to say about how we can prioritize accessible housing, because I was in that, was in on the discussions on with the passive house motion from E&E, and so I'll send you an email just to catch up on that.
Sounds good. All right. It is 1:30, half hour over. We're okay. Anything else before we end the meeting? Okay, so somebody wanted to make a motion to adjourn. And that's Lori, seconded by Jeff. All in favor. Oh, one more thing. Just remember what you have to do. I don't know, Casey, you got a lot. We had a lot sent out. There's a lot of things to do. So I don't know how quick you can get those minutes. Kind of rude to do, but I'm sorry.
I'll work quick.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to hear. You're great. Thank you for the work you do. And Tatiana, thank you for coming. And all in favor? Okay, adjourned.